How would you feel if people arrested for domestic violence had to register like sex offenders do? Arrested doesn't mean convicted. Surely you meant convicted, right? Oh. Yeah, I meant convicted. I caught a DV charge for beating up my stepdad after he beat my handicapped mother. Luckily for me, the charge was reduced. But not everyone who gets that charge is a woman beater. It basically ruined my life at the time. And if I was treated like a sex offender on top of it all, I probably wouldn't have made it to today. Similar experience here. I was charged with aggravated domestic for allegedly beat my brother so bad he was hospitalized for 3 days. Sounds pretty awful, right? He came to my home with a pistol and his girlfriend while my wife was there alone. The GF came to record our interaction. He wanted me to attack him. He called me at work threatening me and my wife. I left work and spent 45 minutes begging, pleading, trying to reason with him that we were brothers and the silliness he was upset about would all be a distant memory one day and that it wasn't worth tearing two brothers apart. I have no recollection of the events that followed. But I was arrested. Months later in court. We looked so stupid, two grown men of close age and stature, one asking for an order of protection. In hindsight, I should have called the cops on him. But at the time I thought I could reason and keep the law out of a family matter. Oh well. I feel for ya there. Glad you're safe. I hope your brother got some help too. Sounds like he might have needed a little professional assistance. Thank you. We both could have used some good family counseling. It's not fixing the root cause. The root causes are well established. People stay out of fear. Dependence on the abuser. Inability to recognize abuse. Disability. Lack of resources. Low self-esteem. Basically, you could end domestic abuse entirely if you empowered abusers financially and with mental health care. But mental health care is bananas expensive, and having to work 60 hours per week if you don't already to try and get back on your feet, or being homeless, is a huge disincentive. We live in a society that puts those people in the situation where they cannot seek help or get out because they lack the resources to do so. And until you fix that, everything else is a band-aid. I'm showing this to everyone who says I just don't understand why they stay with them when talking about another's situation. So well put. I used to be one of those people. One of the ones that said, why can't you just leave? Until I was in an abusive relationship. I realized pretty quickly that it's not that simple. I still feel guilty for ever judging people for staying in abusive relationships and not just leaving. It's hard to understand if you've never been in that situation. In my case, he told me he would kill me if I tried to leave. And I believed him. I received death threats daily when I did leave. And I'm sure he would have carried them out if he had the opportunity. I really think that a lot of what's needed is education. People need to be aware of resources they can use to get away from abusive spouses if needed. Women's/men's shelters. Laws in their area. How to file a restraining order. Education about the cycle of abuse is also important. I totally disagree with it. As a defense attorney, I've seen a lot of the registration system. It is already so flawed. There are so many people on it that absolutely should not have to register. Fun fact: you do not have to be convicted of a registrable offense to be required to register, at least in my state, which is a fairly liberal state. If you are charged with a crime that requires registration, and are found guilty of anything coming from that set of circumstances, you register. Even if found not guilty by a jury for that offense. And it is much easier than you would think to be charged with a registrable offense than you would think. The predatory offender lists are very watered down with non-predators. Once you register, It's incredibly difficult to turn your life around. No one will hire you. You can't go to college. And registration is complex. Especially for poor, uneducated people. That violation incredibly likely. Even if you're not actively avoiding registration. It's concerning to me how quickly people back the idea of you're never allowed back into society for X crime. There's no doubt we need to do something about repeat offenders, but with the US justice system in the horrific state it already is, more punitive measures are just as likely to harm the reformed as the unchanged. And yes, that's before the inevitable tough on crime campaign someone runs for office on. To expand this to dangerous people, which basically means even more ways to wind up on a list for life designed to keep you as an outcast, as you've already described. Heck, the entire concept of we think this person is so dangerous we put them on a list that it's your responsibility to check is just so flawed to begin with. Americans really like cultivating criminals and leaving societal problems to fester instead of proactively working to fix them. And mental health is at the head of this. A list like this is a key example of something that sounds great on paper, but would be absolutely horrible in practice. I want abusers gone too. I grew up with them. But a list is not the answer. The answer is attack the root of the problem. Generational abuse and mental health problems. Said abuser I was with had issues with some stuff. Not all with issues are abusers, but most abusers have issues. But the fix for that step in the chain, better mental health resources so abusers aren't made, is to spend a lot more money in taxes for better resources. And Americans don't want this. And that's where the bread meets the butter. Americans like leaving problems to fester because it's cheaper to do this as a country, and why care when money is power? I'm not American, but it seems everywhere that ex-cons are treated poorly and find it hard to get work, which drives them back to crime. I mean, once you get out of someone offers you a criminal job for like a few hundred a job, or some speepty job you looked for ages for feep all money, most people would go the first American here. And yes, our system brands you for life. We don't rehabilitate, we punish, and after we punish, we ostracize, register. So once a person has done the time in prison, they aren't able to find housing or a job. So they do what they can to survive, which means they can only find minimum wage jobs. Live in places where there is high crime, B/C, it's all they can afford, etc., which makes it easier to find trouble again and return to prison. Also, another sad fact, some of our prisons are owned by private corporations which make a steep ton of money. So why rehab people when they can come back and make them more money? We're America, the land of opportunity. But pathetically, we are not the land of second chances. Oh, and the land of the most incarcerated individuals. What prize do we get? And because of vast socio-economic divide in our country, those who don't have money or any type of family situation that will support someone once they get out of prison to slowly regain a foothold back in normal society, they are absolutely screwed. It's sad, and I'm not sure it will change in my lifetime or my children's lifetime. Every housing or job application I've ever encountered always has a "have you ever been convicted of a crime" question, and if you answer, you're pretty guaranteed to not get that job, house, or APT. Only find min wage. Even then they'll drive you away. That's a personal decision on the GM to allow a convict around young children, and typically that's a no. I had roommates who had gotten out and he was working construction under the surprise. 2 different bosses kept promising they would pay him and either never did or were always procrastinating it. So even if you find someone who will hire you, it doesn't mean they won't be taking advantage of you and not actually paying you. At the time he was on probation and mainly getting by because he was selling weed, not because of his construction job. I was so angry for him. I'm immediately suspicious of any initiative that has no other purpose besides publicizing bad things someone has done or even just allegedly done to make them a pariah. Because God knows if there's anything we needed more of, it's witch hunts. The law exists to curb mankind's speed-peer nature, not indulge it. That last line's a bar.
Hey guys, if you like this video then smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more contents like this. And don't forget to press that bell icon to get notified for future videos. Thanks for watching. Click here to see more videos.